There is a moment, not of anger, but of deep, quiet exhaustion. It's the moment you put the phone down, face screen silent, and a part of your body finally stops waiting. It's not a grand declaration. It's a silent, internal shift. You simply stop being available. You stop being the one who fills the silence, the one who initiates, the one who holds space for his ambiguity. You stop turning the chair towards the door, waiting for him to walk in. And in the silence that follows, a new question begins to breathe. It's no longer the frantic, anxious question of, when will he write? Or, what did I do wrong? A deeper, more unnerving question takes its place. Does this silence even register for him? Does my absence create a space, or just more space? You tell yourself you don't care. You tell yourself this is for you. But a hidden part of your psyche, the part that invested hope and energy, is still listening. It's listening for the echo of your withdrawal. It's wondering what, if anything, is happening on the other side of that quiet. This is not about manipulation. This is not a game of who can hold their breath the longest. This is about a fundamental shift in a psychological dynamic. When a woman who was once a constant source of emotional warmth and availability suddenly becomes still. When she withdraws her energy, not as a punishment, but as an act of self-preservation. What happens in the man's inner world is not simple. It's not a straightforward case of absence makes the heart grow fonder. To understand it, we have to look beneath the surface of ego and behavior. We have to look into the realm of the unconscious, into the world of projections, shadows, and the primal fear of loss. The world that Carl Jung dedicated his life to mapping. The first thing that happens is often nothing. And this is the first and most difficult test for the woman. Days, maybe even a week or two, might pass in complete silence. His life, from the outside, appears to go on unchanged. This initial void is where most women falter. The anxiety spikes. The inner critic screams that you were insignificant, that your absence is a relief to him, that you've made a terrible mistake. Your mind tells you, see, he never cared. But the unconscious moves on a different timeline. What you perceive as nothing is actually the crucial first stage, the slow evaporation of a projection. For as long as you were available, you were not just a person to him, you were also a screen onto which he projected a part of his own soul. In Jungian terms, this is the anima. The anima is the unconscious feminine side of a man's personality, an inner image of woman that he carries within him. It's an archetype, a blend of his experiences with his mother, with other significant women, and with the collective image of the feminine he has absorbed from culture. When he was drawn to you, he was drawn to qualities in you that resonated with this inner image. Your warmth, your understanding, your vitality, they fed this internal figure. You, the real, complex, three-dimensional woman, became fused with his idealized anima projection. As long as you were there, texting, calling, being emotionally present, you kept that projection alive and stable for him. You were a reliable mirror for a part of himself he could not access directly. Your availability was not just convenient, it was psychologically comfortable. It required nothing of him. He could dip into your warmth when he felt a chill, see his idealized feminine reflected back at him, and then retreat into his own world without consequence. You were a fixed point of light in his emotional cosmos, one he could navigate by without ever having to truly approach. When you withdraw, the screen goes blank. The mirror is taken away. At first, his conscious mind, his ego, might not even notice. The ego is busy with work, with friends, with the persona of the self-sufficient man he presents to the world. But his unconscious notices. The anima, which was being nourished by your energy, is now unfed. The projection has lost its object. This is where the second stage begins. A subtle, unnamed discomfort starts to stir within him. It's not a conscious thought of, I miss her. It's more like walking into a room and feeling that a piece of furniture has been moved. The space feels different, unbalanced. He might feel a vague restlessness, an irritability he can't place. He might find himself checking his phone without knowing why, feeling a phantom sense of anticipation that is met with nothing. This is the echo of your absence arriving in his psyche. It's not a love song, it's a disruption in his inner equilibrium. The part of him that was outsourced to you, the part that felt seen, understood, and quietly admired without any effort on his part, is now sending back error messages to his ego. His ego, the guardian of his conscious identity, will try to rationalize this feeling. It will say, "I'm just bored," or "I'm stressed from work." The last thing the masculine ego, especially one invested in an identity of independence, wants to admit is, "My sense of well-being was subtly dependent on a woman I was keeping at arm's length." That admission is a threat to the persona he has carefully constructed. So, instead of reaching out with vulnerability, his ego might react with defense. He might get angry. Who does she think she is, just disappearing? He might feel a surge of pride. Fine, I don't need her anyway. He might even project a negative quality onto you, deciding you were the one who was needy or unstable, and your silence is just proof of that. This is all the ego's frantic attempt to maintain control and avoid confronting the deeper truth. A source of psychic energy has been cut off, and it feels like a loss. But this is only the surface. The deeper truth is far more uncomfortable, and it has to do with his shadow. Every persona, every mask we wear for the world, casts a shadow. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, is the part of ourselves we repress and deny. It contains the qualities we believe are unacceptable. For a man who has built a persona of being strong, independent, and emotionally invulnerable, his shadow often contains its opposites: vulnerability, dependency, neediness, and a deep-seated fear of abandonment. Your constant availability allowed him to keep this shadow locked away. He never had to face his own need for connection because you were always providing it. He never had to risk rejection because you were always the one reaching out. He never had to confront his fear of being left because you never left. You were, in a way, the unwitting keeper of his shadow. When you withdraw, you are no longer standing guard at the door of his unconscious. The absence you create is a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. Into that space, the whispers from his shadow begin to rise. The vague restlessness he felt earlier now begins to take on a more specific shape. It starts to feel like fear, the fear of loss. But here is the critical distinction, the one that can save you from a world of future pain. The fear he feels is not necessarily the fear of losing you, the person. It is the fear of what your loss represents. It is the ego's fear of losing control. It is the fear of a mirror being taken away, forcing him to see himself without the flattering glow of your admiration. And most profoundly, it is the activation of a much older wound, a core complex. Perhaps it's an abandonment complex from childhood. Your silence unconsciously echoes a time when a primary caregiver was emotionally or physically absent. The adult man's ego scoffs at the idea, but his inner child is terrified. Your withdrawal doesn't just feel like a modern dating scenario gone wrong. On a deep, somatic level, it feels like a threat to his survival. This is why his reaction, if it comes, can seem so disproportionate and confusing. He might suddenly reappear with a flood of messages, not with an apology, but with a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" as if no time has passed. This is his ego trying to plug the gap, to restore the connection without admitting there was ever a rupture. He wants to see if the screen will turn back on, if the mirror will work again. Or he might reappear with a display of anger or wounded pride. He might accuse you of playing games. This is his shadow in action. The vulnerability he feels is so intolerable that he must project it outward as blame. He's essentially saying, "You made me feel this uncomfortable feeling of need, and that is unacceptable." The third possibility is that he pulls back even further, doubling down on his persona of indifference. He might even start ostentatiously dating someone new, posting it all over social media. This is a desperate attempt by the ego to prove to itself and to the world, and to you, that he is unaffected. He is trying to find a new screen, a new mirror, as quickly as possible to avoid the terrifying emptiness of the void you left behind. He is trying to replace the chair you pulled away. Understanding this is not about feeding your own ego. It is not about gloating that he is suffering. It is about arming yourself with psychological clarity. Because the most dangerous moment for you is when he does reach out. When that notification finally appears on your silent phone, your body will have a reaction before your mind does. A jolt of adrenaline, a surge of validation. The part of you that was still listening will scream, "It worked. He does care. He did miss me." And this is the trap. You risk mistaking his ego's panicked reaction for a genuine change of heart. You risk mistaking his fear of losing a projection for a desire for true intimacy with you. If you respond immediately, with the same warmth and availability as before, you teach him a powerful lesson, that your absence is merely a tactic, a temporary state that can be easily reversed by a small token of his attention. You put the chair right back where it was, turn it towards the door, and signal that he can resume his comfortable, low-investment pattern. The dynamic will reset, but it will be worse this time, because now he knows the threshold of your tolerance for his absence. So, what is the path of true transformation for you? It is to see his reaction, or his lack of reaction, not as a verdict on your worth, but as a diagnostic tool. It is information about his inner world, not a command for your outer world. When you stopped being available, you didn't just create a vacuum in his life, you created a space in your own. For the first time in a long time, there is energy that is not being directed towards him. There is attention that is not being spent deciphering his mixed signals. There is emotional real estate that is no longer occupied by waiting. The work now is to fill that space with yourself. This is the journey Carl Jung called individuation. It is the process of becoming an individual, whole and undivided. It means withdrawing your own projections and integrating the disowned parts of yourself. While you were focused on him, you were also projecting. You were likely projecting your animus, the unconscious masculine principle within you, onto him. You projected the image of the ideal partner, the man of strength, depth, or potential that you longed for. You may have been in a relationship not with the man as he truly was, but with the potential you saw in him, a potential that mirrored your own inner masculine. When you withdraw your availability from him, you must also consciously withdraw your animus projection. You must stop seeing him as the carrier of the qualities you desire and start cultivating them within yourself. The strength, the decisiveness, the ability to stand one's ground. These are not his to give you. They are aspects of your own animus waiting to be integrated. This is when you begin to heal your own shadow. The shadow of the woman who is always available is often the fear of being too much, or the belief that her worth is tied to her usefulness to others. It is the good girl persona that has been taught that her needs should come last. By holding your ground, by not rushing back to soothe his discomfort, you are meeting this shadow. You are sitting with the discomfort of not being the nice or understanding one. You are learning that your silence is not cruelty, it is a boundary, and a boundary is not a wall. It is the clear line that defines where you end and another person begins. It is the foundation of self-respect. If this new understanding names something you have never been able to say out loud, take a moment to acknowledge it. This is not about blame. It is about seeing the invisible architecture of a dynamic that has cost you your peace. As you continue to hold this space for yourself, something remarkable happens. The question of, what is he thinking, begins to fade. The urgency dissolves. You might still feel a pang of sadness for the connection you hoped for, but it is no longer the central, organizing principle of your life. You begin to use the energy you once spent on him, on yourself. You reinvest it in your work, your friendships, your body, your creativity. You start to furnish the room of your own life. You take that empty chair and you pull it up to your own table, for yourself. You find that your own company is not a consolation prize. It is a sanctuary. From this place of grounded self-possession, you can look at him and the situation with clear eyes. If he never reaches out, you will feel a clean grief, not a desperate obsession. You will see that his inability to meet you was a reflection of his own limitations, not a judgment on your value. You will have saved yourself from months or years of waiting for a man who could only love a projection. And if he does reach out, he will not be met by the same woman. He will not find a screen ready for his projections, or a caretaker for his unacknowledged needs. He will meet a woman who is centered in her own life, a woman whose silence was not a strategy to get his attention, but a consequence of giving her attention back to herself. She will not be hostile or cold. She will simply be occupied with her own life. Her response, if she chooses to give one, will come from a place of sovereignty, not anxiety. She might respond warmly, but slowly. She will not drop everything to accommodate him. She will not be available for a last-minute, low-effort hangout that suits his schedule. She will be observing. Is he showing genuine curiosity about her? Is he taking accountability for his distance? Is he willing to do the work of building a real connection? Or is he just trying to restore his comfortable status quo? The man who is truly ready for a relationship will feel this shift. He will be intrigued, perhaps even intimidated, but also deeply respectful. Your self-possession will challenge him to drop his own persona and meet you as an equal. He will have to confront his own fear of intimacy to earn a place in your life. He will realize the chair at your table is no longer free. It must be earned through genuine presence and effort. The man who is not ready, the man who was only interested in the reflection you provided, will be repelled by this new energy. Your wholeness will highlight his own fragmentation. Your boundaries will feel like an attack on his ego. He will likely retreat, perhaps with a final parting shot of blame, and go in search of an easier mirror. Either outcome is a victory for you, because the goal was never to capture him. The goal was to reclaim yourself. The moment a woman stops being constantly available is the moment she takes back the pen to her own story. She stops being a supporting character in his narrative and becomes the protagonist of her own. Her absence on his phone screen is the sign of her presence in her own life. This is the ultimate paradox. The only way to have a chance at a healthy connection with another is to first build an unbreakable connection with yourself. You must be willing to lose him to find yourself. And once you have found yourself, you realize that you can never truly be lost. The silence you feared was not an ending. It was an invitation to come home to the one person who was waiting for you all along, yourself. My silence is not a strategy. It is my homecoming. And this homecoming is not just a psychological concept. It is a profound physiological event. For months, perhaps years, your body has been living in a low-grade state of fight or flight. The constant anticipation of a text, the analysis of a brief phone call, the emotional highs of a good day with him, and the crushing lows of his withdrawal. All of this keeps your nervous system flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Your shoulders are permanently tensed. Your breath is shallow, held in the upper part of your chest. Your sleep is light, easily disturbed. You are a soldier on watch, and the silence from his front is the most unnerving state of all. When you truly let go, when the homecoming begins, your body is the first to register the peace treaty. One day, you will notice your shoulders have dropped. You will take a full, deep breath that travels all the way to your belly, and you will realize you haven't breathed like that in a very long time. This is your parasympathetic nervous system finally taking over, shifting you from fight or flight into rest and digest. The body, which holds the memory of every anxious weight, every perceived rejection, finally begins to unclench. It stops being an archive of his inconsistency and starts, once again, to be your home. You begin to sleep more deeply. You feel a sense of groundedness, a weight in your own feet. This somatic shift is the undeniable proof that your withdrawal is not a tactic, but a true nervous system recalibration. You are no longer waiting for him. Your very cells have stood down. You will know this change is real through a series of small, quiet epiphanies. One afternoon, you'll be completely absorbed in a task, gardening, writing a report, laughing with a friend, and you will suddenly realize with a jolt of surprise that you have not thought about him for 3 entire hours. The realization brings not a surge of triumphant pride, but a gentle, curious sense of freedom. The mental space he occupied, that frantic, looping analysis of his words and actions, has been quietly rezoned for other purposes. The inner critic that once screamed, "You are not enough," is now a faint whisper, easily ignored, because you are too busy being enough for yourself. This is the fundamental difference between playing the silent game and embodying true withdrawal. In the silent game, your energy is still focused on him. You are actively not texting him. You are checking to see if he's seen your story. Your silence is loud, tense, and performative. It is a weapon. But in true withdrawal, your energy is simply elsewhere. Your silence is not a weapon. It is a byproduct of your engagement with your own life. You are not texting him. You are doing something else. And in that distinction lies the entirety of your power. It is precisely at this point, when you are most grounded in yourself, that the universe will send the final exam. This is the late practical test. He will return, but not with a simple, easily dismissed, "Hey." The man whose ego has been truly stung by the loss of its primary mirror will not give up so easily. He will have felt the void, panicked, and his ego will now deploy its most sophisticated strategy. He will come back seemingly changed. He might send a long, articulate message, using the very language of emotional intelligence you once craved. He'll say things like, "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize I took your presence for granted." Or, "The silence made me understand what I lost." He might reference a small, intimate detail from your past, proving he was listening. He might offer a grand gesture, a beautiful apology, or a vulnerable-sounding confession about his fears. This is the most dangerous moment of all. This is the ego's masterstroke. It has learned what you want to hear, and it is feeding it to you to restore the old dynamic. It is a performance of transformation, not the reality of it. He is not offering you a new relationship. He is offering you a more convincing version of the old projection. The woman who is still hoping, the one who has not yet come home to her body, will collapse at this. She will see it as the victory she has been waiting for. But the woman who has individuated, who has reclaimed her center, will become a quiet observer. She will not be swayed by the beautiful words. Her body, now a finely tuned instrument of truth, will not lie. It might register a flicker of the old hope, but it will also register a deep, somatic caution. Her test is not to challenge his words, but to hold her ground and observe his actions. She has moved beyond the need for verbal validation. She now deals in the currency of consistent, tangible effort. So when he says, "I miss you, let's see each other," she does not immediately clear her schedule. She might respond with a calm, "It's good to hear from you. My week is quite full, but I'm generally free on Thursday evenings if you'd like to make a concrete plan." The power of this response is immense. It is not cold or punitive. It is warm but firm. It communicates three things. 1. My life is full and does not revolve around you. 2. The burden of making the effort, the planning, the initiation, is now on you. 3. I am only available for clear, respectful investment, not vague, last-minute crumbs of attention. The man who is simply performing will be baffled by this response. It disrupts his script. He expected either an emotional floodgate of relief or an angry wall of rejection. This calm, boundaried self-possession is a landscape he doesn't know how to navigate. His ego, seeking a quick fix, will often balk at the requirement of sustained effort. He might agree in the moment, but then fail to follow through with a concrete plan, or try to revert to low-effort texting. His actions, or lack thereof, will give you the real answer. He is filtering himself out. However, there is another possibility, a rarer and more profound one. The man who is genuinely capable of growth will experience her boundary not as a rejection, but as an invitation to a higher level of integrity. Her self-respect will activate his own desire for wholeness. He will see that the old games will not work, that to be in her world, he must show up differently. He must show up as a whole person. This is where his own journey must begin. He is forced to look at his own shadow, not because she told him to, but because his usual escape routes are closed. He has to ask himself why he keeps women at arm's length, why he fears vulnerability, why he equates independence with isolation. He must begin the difficult work of integrating his own anima, of learning to source his own emotional warmth and validation from within, rather than outsourcing it to a convenient mirror. If he undertakes this work, his efforts will look different. He will make the concrete plan. He will show up on time. He will ask questions about her life and listen to the answers. He will be consistent. He will risk his own vulnerability without demanding that she manage his feelings. He will be building a bridge, not just dangling a rope. This is the man who passes the test, not because he gave the right answers, but because he began to embody a new way of being. But whether he rises to the occasion or retreats into his old patterns, the outcome for you is the same: liberation. Your goal was never to change him. It was to create the conditions where you would no longer be diminished by him. Your work was to become a woman whose peace is not contingent on a man's presence or absence. And so you arrive at the final stage, a soft, settled quiet. You look at your phone, and it is just a phone, a tool for communication, not a source of validation or an instrument of torture. You walk past your front door, and it is simply an entrance to your home, a sanctuary that you have built. You feel no compulsion to look out the window. The chair that once sat empty, turned toward the door in anxious vigil, is now your favorite reading chair, pulled into a cozy corner with a lamp and a stack of books. Or perhaps it is now one of 2 chairs at a table set for a dear friend. Its purpose is no longer defined by someone else's potential arrival. Its purpose is defined by you. Your happiness is no longer a fragile thing, held in the hands of another. It is a deep, internal wellspring. You have walked through the fire of your own longing and come out the other side, not hardened, but whole. You have learned that the most profound love story is not the one where you finally get the man, but the one where you finally, completely, come home to yourself. And from that home, all things are possible. The right love, if it comes, will not feel like a rescue. It will feel like a recognition. It will feel like another traveler, meeting you at your own front door, ready to build something real, together.